Well, hello everyone. As we start to let everybody in, we'll kind of get this show going here in just a moment. And, all right, Marley and Alex, are we kind of ready? Everybody, at least from the waiting room, in? Okay. Well, we're going to get this started. Hello, my name is Tony Castanerio, and welcome to our second fall 2023 webinar. Take your career into any sector is what we're talking about today, where you can be interested in for-profit, not-for-profit. Willamette University MBA is dual accredited. We have an AACSB accreditation for our for-profit accreditation and a NASPA accreditation for a not-for-profit. And that's kind of where we're going to dive into a little bit, our unique cross-sectoral approach. And I'm going to go ahead and share this with everyone. My name, again, Tony Castanerio, Director of Recruitment, but my team, not all my team is here today, but I'm going to introduce them. Nate Nagy is our Assistant Director of Recruitment. Some of you have been in contact with him. Alex Salazar is also Assistant Director of Recruitment, and he is here with us. And Marley Nicasio is also Assistant Director of Recruitment. She is here with us. So if you have questions for any of the recruitment team when we're done, we will be sticking around and we can share our contact information. But we have a treat for you tonight. We have one of our outstanding assistant professors. He is going to talk to you tonight about our philanthropic investment and community impact class, as well as some other interesting topics. His name is Ron Hayes. And Ron is an outstanding person to get to know if you are interested in applying to our university and interested in taking this class. You definitely want to get to know Ron. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you now, Ron.
Thanks. Good to be here. One of the things as we were formulating a talk that we wanted to do was to look at an area that probably goes cross-sector, and that's sources of revenue. It could also be sources of revenue for nonprofit organizations. It also could be transferred as a concept of sources of revenue in general. Jim Collins, in his book, Good to Great, I'm sort of a fan of Jim Collins's work because he's done some very in-depth studies, has a concept which he calls the hedgehog concept. And it's called the hedgehog concept because he classifies it that way because a hedgehog is a very simple animal. This is a simple concept. And the hedgehog concept defines what all great businesses have in common. One, to be great, it's better than to be good. In other words, the enemy of great is good. And so to be a great organization, to extend out way beyond, you have three categories: what you're passionate about, what you could be the best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine. Economic engine drivers is the revenue that fires up organizations and businesses and keeps them going. It's where they get their financial support to move ahead. And when you go to the social sector, in the next slide, you'll see that sometimes I'll call it resource engine drivers as opposed to as a way of describing it. Either way, it's okay, but it's the same thing. It's what is the financial supports of an organization and a business, and paying attention to that as you run your organization. A term that I've coined up that I use is what I call revenue tranches. And a tranche is a piece of something. It's usually a money type of thing. You'll have different types of tranches for financing. You'll have different types of sources, sort of like a portion of a pie that makes up the whole. You have different tranches that make it up. It comes from the French term to cut, and but we use that quite a bit in our discussion in class. This right here is a description of where revenue comes from nonprofit sources. Most people think of nonprofit organizations, they think of the money coming through gifts, philanthropy, those kinds of things. But the reality is that the bulk of the money comes from earned income and also government contracts. If you could see that in this slide here, just like I'm forwarding here, over 80% of the funding comes from either private fee-for-service or government contracts. Next slide. And you can see that for the philanthropic support, it's only 14%. And that's a big misconception that a lot of people have when they start talking about the nonprofits, is where the funds come from. The next slide shows you a chart that we've developed over a period of time. I've been working on this chart for about 14 years, and it's all the potential revenue sources that are out there that we've identified. If you look at the very top of your slide, you'll see other. That's the ones we haven't thought of or haven't been developed yet, that will hopefully someday maybe add more to this chart. But a lot of income comes from a variety of different types of things. Part of it comes from in fee-for-service, part of it comes from government contracts, and a lot of it comes from different philanthropic sources. If you look at the next slide here, this is an organization that I was working with, and we took and used that chart to identify where they were getting their revenue from. And this is a chart we work with as we work with nonprofit organizations, is to help them understand and look at where their revenue engines are. This particular organization had basically a corporate giving that was employee giving and direct donation, and then it had a few grants, very small grants, and then they had planned giving. They had some planned giving, which was gifts through estates and wills, and all the other sources are all grayed out because they were not getting funding from any of those sources. So we looked at it and said, okay, we are short of revenue. Where can we identify the areas that are potential prospects for us to source revenue from? And next slide, it shows you where this particular organization decided to look. And they looked at some areas that aren't normal types of revenues that you'd see in a non-for-profit. One was mergers and acquisitions, and the other one was in donor advised funds, and the other was in individual sustained giving, evergreen types of funding that could come in. It's not common for mergers and acquisitions, and one of the things that we cover in the class is how do we target that? How do we bring that in? This particular organization that I worked with, we targeted it. We were able to bring in a $700,000 acquisition, and so we covered that with how to make that happen in a real world setting. Donor advised funds is the fastest growing philanthropy right now in the United States. At one point in time, United Way worldwide, the United Way organization across the nation, was the biggest source of funding in nonprofits. They were number one in bringing monies in. They have since moved down to second or third place now, and displaced by donor advised funds, particularly through corporate enterprises. The biggest one is Fidelity Charitable. Fidelity Charitable is the nonprofit side of Fidelity Investments, and that has surpassed United Way worldwide, and it's going to probably continue to be the leading source of revenues in the billions of dollars for nonprofits. Okay. One of the things that we are doing is we're working as a consequential learning class with real life experience using real money. And the class starts off at the very beginning, finding out what's important to them as an individual and as a class corporately that they would want to give money to. We go through several processes of that, and we usually are able to come down to a couple common goals that we want to accomplish. At that particular point, we are let out a letter of inquiry or letter of interest that we ask for those as we let out a small RFP that we're going to be offering. We usually have a time frame. We develop the language that we need for that request for proposals, and when the giving time comes. We're doing that right now in our class right now that's going on right now. Tonight is the deadline for our letters of inquiry coming in, and it seems like they all pour in at the very end. And at that particular point, the class then reviews the letters of inquiry, and we have a criteria. We've had a grading criteria that this class developed as we were waiting as to who we will choose for a full proposal. And this particular class has chosen that they want something that on sustainability, particularly looking at long-term sustainability, particularly looking at alternative energy, things like that, that would help a nonprofit. And this was what the class felt was important to them. In previous classes, we've had homelessness was an issue that they chose, but we don't go into the class with a pre-chosen. That's part of the process of the class, is to choose ourselves what we want to invest in. It's a consensus class. We build consensus in coming together. It takes a bit of discussion to get there, but we've always been successful being able to get a common cause. And we work then to determine which we're going to do. We also do a pretty in-depth financial review. We have access to what's called GuideStar Pro, which is a huge draw into the nonprofits that are out there. They have all the nonprofits in the United States in their database. And that particular database gives us all their financials. They're what's called the 990, which is like a tax return for a nonprofit. They also have audits. They have a variety of things. Then they parse it out also, looking at financial ratios and things like that they present on each organization. And so the class can then dig down into the organizations and ask, is this a stable organization? Would we really want to give money to this organization, or would we not want to give money to this organization? Because they do not and are encouraged not to give out money unless they feel committed that they will make an impact by the funds that they give out. And that's the real world experience. And it becomes a very difficult aspect in many ways of giving money away. It's not easy to give money away like this. But because we want to make sure that the donor, which historically has been United Way, and also before that it was a development corporation, they want to make sure that we use their money well. We want to honor that donation, and so because of that, we take it very seriously. That is the real world experience of what we're doing. The other part we look at and dig a little bit deeper is the tranches. I was telling you about the different tranches, and explore some of the individual tranches. And later in the class, as we're waiting for proposals to come in, etc., for timing, we'll be digging into potentially finding some ways that we can practice that in a real world experience of actually bring revenues in and make a difference for some organization besides just the grant process. When we first started this class, it was just the grants process, but we realized that we need to really touch on all the other financial engines that drive organizations. So just in a nutshell, that's our class. It's a pretty exciting class. One of the things I will say is that we also work hard at building our class culture. It's important to have a good culture in any organization. And so we actually practice that. We have a requirement that we have to talk behind each other's backs and say nice things. And you'd be surprised how much that changes culture when people start doing that in a very positive manner. So I look forward to continuing this class and moving it ahead. I look forward to some of you maybe joining us in this class. And you'll find that the atmosphere at Willamette is a great atmosphere, and there's a real push towards excellence, and I really appreciate that. So that's what I was going to present to you tonight. If people have questions, feel free to ask.
Oh, that's really great, Ron. And we're going to go ahead. Alex and Marley will monitor the chat here, and by all means, if somebody has a question, you can speak up. You can write it in the chat. And Marley and Alex, you guys let me know if they do. Part of this for everyone, just so you know, is that, if you're interested with this kind of unique cross-sectoral approach that Willamette takes, is that you're going to be taking classes. A traditional MBA teaches you mostly for-profit, You know, you want to go work for a large industry like Intel or Nike, or start your own business. But you get this opportunity with this dual accreditation that Willamette offers to take classes like this. So you're interested in service, you're interested in government work, you're interested in not-for-profit work. These are some amazing classes, like Ron said, where you're going to get hands-on experience. You're going to be able to put this on a resume and go compete against people that have been in the industry 5-10 years. And so you're not going to get this everywhere. You're going to get this at Willamette University, and that's what makes it unique. So
I would just add on to this, Tony, one of the interesting things is we don't know of any other MBA program that has a real world experience of giving out grants like what we're doing. It is very unique for that to be at Willamette. The other aspect of it is the students that are signing up, many of them come from a variety of things. They're not going into nonprofits per se. Some of them are going into marketing, some are going into finance. We have a data management aspect to our class as well. And so we've had some data management students in there as well. And so it appeals to a lot of people.
absolutely, absolutely. And this is all kind of predicated upon those consequential learning, experiential learning courses. This is a prime example of real money, real situations that you get to go ahead and tell people that you've done, have that on your resume. So some people come into this program, they have experience, whether you're an MBA for a professional and you're taking a course, you have 10 years under your belt and you want to take experiential learning electives, you have that opportunity, or you're right out of undergrad and you don't have work experience. Well, here's a chance to really gain that hands-on experience and be around professionals like Ron, who've been in the business, who have connections, and kind of learn as you go. And so what better place to make a mistake or be able to ask questions, and you're not necessarily in a position where you're going to get fired if you guys are you make the wrong decision. You get to learn before you make these big decisions, and this is a great environment for you, which also makes it very unique. So was there a question, Alex or Marley? Not yet, which is okay, because we're gonna keep talking here. And one of the things, whoops, I skipped ahead. We briefly mentioned, course offerings and experiential learning classes and this multi-sector approach to management education. Your exposure to the not-for-profits by taking a class like this. You're going to have also this PACE course that's going to be required of you at Willamette, which is also unique to Willamette. It stands for Practical Applications for Careers and Enterprises if you're coming into our early career program. And if you're coming into our MBA for Professionals program, it's a lead class. It's kind of much more of a scaled down version of PACE, minus the experience that you're going to get to work for an actual company. And so these are unique classes, like I was saying, where you get to kind of, we see students come into our program and they dabble across sectors when they graduate. Some people start out in the not-for-profit sector and they move over to for-profit, or vice versa. And this program is going to set you up well for both, because the skills that you're going to learn, both soft skills, your communication skills, your management, your leadership style skills, as well as your hard skills, where you're going to have to look behind the book. You're going to have to understand accounting. You're going to have to understand finance. You're going to have to understand the language of business, which is essentially accounting, finance, economics. You're going to be taking these types of courses that are going to help you become a more effective leader, a more effective manager. And it's that kind of multi-sector approach that allows our students, again, to kind of dabble and pivot across different industries when they get out. So we talked about consequential learning courses, what we call the acronym, the PICI class, the Philanthropic Investment for Community Impact. It's 2 semesters focused on awarding funds to local not-for-profit organizations. That's what Ron was talking about. There are other consequential courses, learning courses that we offer. And again, it's not just not-for-profit, it's also for-profit. We have an angel investing class for all you venture capitalist people that are interested in that show Shark Tank. There's real money there to be invested in startup companies. And there's other classes that we offer. Prime examples, again, of really getting in the weeds, getting the experience. And then also, if you're an MBA for professional, if you're an executive type MBA and you have experience, the beauty about both of these programs that we're talking about is that they're cohort models. Okay, there's a lot of, Ron had mentioned the word collaboration, working together in groups. You're going to be sharing insights across different people, with different people that cross over from different sectors of different industries, and you're going to be able to problem solve and get together and really look through different lenses to see, well, how do I become that great manager, that great leader in whatever organization that you're in, or whatever organization you aspire to be in. And so other course offerings, public policy for studies, if you're interested in not-for-profit work, you're interested in government work, strategic marketing for public and private not-for-profit organizations, benefit cost analysis. These are just examples. So if you really are interested in the not-for-profit world, we got it covered. We have classes that you can dive into. This PICI class, the PACE course, some of these other courses we're mentioning, great courses. And this is all on top of the kind of fundamental learning you're going to get in the MBA program. All those traditional MBA courses, accounting, finance, marketing, operations, you're taking all that kind of stuff. So you're going to get that, plus you have these elective options. And these elective options are for both programs. MBA for professionals, you get elective choices. And then the early career change people, you get a lot of elective choices as well. So, and then internships. If you're more looking at our full-time program, we're going to be pushing you to go get an internship. And you can focus on for-profit internships. You can focus on not-for-profit internships. Again, with that dual accreditation and this unique kind of multi-sector approach, cross-sectoral approach, you're going to get to choose. And you're going to get to, the full-time program, you have up to 3 semesters of internship credit that you can take. So you can get, a for-profit and a not-for-profit internship if that's something you're interested in. And then I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next slide here and talk a little bit about scholarships that we offer. So if you're an executive type MBA, you have experience, you want to keep your full-time job, you want to apply to our MBA for Professionals program, we have specific money for those of you that are working at not-for-profits dedicated to give to employees of not-for-profits. We have a $24,000 scholarship. That's by no means a small chunk of change. And it's primarily for folks that are working for not-for-profit. It's an automatic, if you get admitted, you're guaranteed the 24 as a minimum scholarship plus any other scholarships you qualify for. The other scholarship we have for MBA for Professionals is what's called a George and Colleen Hoyt scholarship. So traditionally in both programs, the way it works for us is you apply and you're automatically dumped into the pool for all the money that we have. And if you're, in this case, you work for a not-for-profit, you're going to qualify for that $24,000 right off the bat. Well, this George and Colleen Hoyt scholarship for MBA for Professional folks only is money that was donated and given to the university. If you're working right now for a not-for-profit or have extensive experience working for a not-for-profit organization, that's our one scholarship that you would apply for separately. It's a whole nother pool of money. So it's funny, Ron, it kind of plays into what Ron talked about. He talked about, tranches of money. Well, here's another example. We have a couple tranches. We have that not-for-profit scholarship, and another tranche of money for you is that George and Colleen Hoyt scholarship money. So if you work for a not-for-profit or you work for state government or federal government, and you're really looking to maximize your scholarships that are out there, we have you covered. Willamette wants to help you out. We want to make this kind of education accessible for everyone. So, and then I'm going to pass this on to Marley to talk about some of our scholarships for our early career change program.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Tony was saying, we are trying to be accessible to everyone. And with that being said, all applicants that are applying to our program, whether it be the MBA for Professionals program or early career change, those applicants are admitted and automatically considered for scholarship aid. And that's one really awesome thing about our program, that 100% of students enrolled in the full-time MBA do receive scholarship aid of some form. And if you are interested in going into the nonprofit sector or any sector in general, we do have some scholarship and fellowship opportunities that are listed on this slide that may pertain to you. A few of them are pretty niche, so if that is a community that you're involved in, those could be great opportunities for you to be a part of. Now, as we go into the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about how to apply with Alex.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. So the application process we try to make as straightforward for everyone as possible. And this is true for the full-time program as well as our part-time MBA for Professionals program. And here we have those steps outlined, 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, feel free to go ahead and use this QR code to go ahead and go to the portal and begin that application process. The sooner you all are in there or even just have a demonstrated interest, it's great for us to go ahead and be able to keep track of you and kind of establish that relationship. Even if you're still a little bit on the fence about it, that's perfectly okay because there's no upfront cost or at any point throughout it. And this way we can, again, kind of establish that point of contact and start having communications, text messages, emails, and keep track of it if you'd like to go further in the process. If you do decide to get started and kind of go with it, these are the steps that we'll go ahead and follow. We'll need a few references, a personal statement, and a resume. The up-to-date resume is one of the critical pieces because at that point, we're going to go ahead and be able to schedule your admission interview with our Senior Associate Dean, Alexander Subert. Don't let the personal statement scare you in any way, shape, or form, right? It's a page or two just about who you are, kind of what's brought you to this point. We're really trying to get to know you as an individual and kind of what you can bring to the program because you have assets that are going to go ahead and strengthen the cohort further. And we want to see that reflected. And again, our Senior Associate Dean is going to use these things to have a productive conversation and really get to know you during the admissions interview to make sure everybody's a great fit for the program. We're looking to set everyone up for success, and that's just one of the steps we use to do that. Transcripts are fairly straightforward from the universities or other schools that you have attended. You go ahead and request those and send those on over to us. If at any point you have any questions about going ahead and getting those transcripts, feel free to let one of us recruiters know. We're more than happy to help and have plenty of experience kind of helping track down those transcripts from some universities. Some are done digitally, some are done through traditional mail. Like I said, you just go ahead and let us know and we'll work with you throughout that process. Don't feel like there's a substantial time crunch. More often than not, if we're proactive about it, we can get ahead of it and know everything. You're welcome to go ahead and test for the GRE or the GMAT and report that scoring to us. Now, this is where there's a slight difference between the full-time program and the part-time program. With the part-time program, we have a little bit of flexibility for those individuals that have demonstrated years of leadership experience or managerial experience in the workforce. And if you have any additional questions or you might be hesitant or want to learn more about that, I highly encourage anyone to go ahead and reach out to any of us of the recruiters to get a little bit more details. But again, don't let the GMAT or GRE scare you away in any way, shape, or form. There are opportunities to work together to get past that point. So don't think like, oh, automatically disqualifier. Not at all. We take a well-rounded approach into like looking at your application in its totality. So don't assume that for anything you're going to be immediately disqualified. If you have any questions of any sort or feel that you might, apply to something that you're a little hesitant towards, just go ahead and ask us. We're willing to work with just about anyone in any circumstance to make sure that they are, a proper fit. And then number 4 is that admission interview. Once we get all this collected, and again, the important parts of the personal statement of that resume, but of course, having everything all together is just a phenomenal way to demonstrate that proactiveness that you do want to be here at the program, a great way to stand out. We schedule that admission interview with Alexander Subert. It's usually 30 to 45 minutes, give or take. Again, really getting to know you, kind of seeing what it is that brought you here to Willamette, what you bring to the table, what we can do for you. And then at that point, they go ahead and review that with our scholarship committee and the admissions committee. And at that point, you can expect to hear from us. That is a fairly broad overview of the process, and we are there to help you at every single step of the way. It is quite literally our jobs to be at your disposal, to answer questions, and to guide you through that process. In the broadest of terms, it is very, very similar for both programs. And again, I can't encourage you all enough to apply just to establish that connection and get a hold of us for questions at any point.
Great, Alex, that was great. And so again, if anyone has any questions, feel free, you can raise your hand in the chat. We're going to go ahead and do our promo of our next webinar. We really appreciate that everyone's here, and we're going to be sticking around here, but I wanted to promo Thursday, November 30th, again, 6:30 p.m. We're going to be recording. We're recording right now this webinar session. We're going to send this out. So we know that some folks reached out and couldn't make it. We're going to make sure that everyone gets this recording, even the folks that are here. And the same goes with our last recording. So that'll be the last one for the year. It's going to be another great one. We're going to have another professor, Kieran O'Connor, will be there talking about managing with authenticity. And then we will also have a couple of alums / current students talking about where they are and how they chose Willamette MBA and what they're up to. So again, we really appreciate everyone that's here. We want to open up the floor for questions. If you have questions about the program, questions for Ron about the PICI class, what he's up to, or questions for us recruiters, now's a great time to ask while you have us. And again, if you have a question, don't be afraid to ask, because I'm sure others have probably the same question or would love to hear it. So by all means, you can type it in the chat or unmute yourself. Tatiana, did you have a question?
Yes, I was just looking to see if someone else was going. Didn't want to interrupt someone.
No, go ahead.
I had a little trouble getting in, so I apologize for being a few minutes late. I'm just curious for I can't remember the term for the later professional, pathway. If you've already been working in the public sector, in my case for 30 years, I'm just curious, is there flexibility within the elective parts of the courses to kind of tailor to kind of governmental public policy intersections with the curriculum, and just how much flexibility is in there? Also, is there a way to look online and see what some of your courses might be like in that track? I'm also curious about things like organizational development and strategic planning and that kind of body of work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great questions, Tatiana. And Ron, you can jump in too at any point here as I'm talking. But as far as being a professional and having that flexibility, the way it works in the professionals program, and I'll just kind of lay it out, and we can send you all this information, and anybody who's interested in looking at, well, what does the curriculum kind of look like for the professionals program? It's a 2-year program. It's 48 credits. Each class is worth 4 credits. And basically you starting in and don't quote me on this because I don't have it in front of me, but it's your 3rd or your 4th semester, you start getting an elective choice. And so you're going to have 3 semesters of elective choices that you're going to be able to pick a class. And so for those electives that really interest you in the not-for-profit side or the strategic, you actually have strategic management as one of your core classes that you have to take. But there's going to be these offerings of courses where you will have that flexibility. And we actually have 2 locations. So some of these classes are taught in both locations. We have a Salem location and a Portland location. And some may be taught in one versus the other, but you actually will have the freedom to go any direction you want to go and kind of whatever's being offered, dive into those courses. So I would say my answer is yes. And the beauty about Willamette is that we are a small school, but we're the #1 ranked MBA program in the state of Oregon. And that's because of our professors and people like Ron, where they want to work with you guys. They want to help you become a better professional, a better leader, a better manager, so that you can get what you're trying to get out of the program. So my answer would be absolutely. And then what I want to do here is open this up for Ron or Alex, because what I'm going to start doing, Tatiana, is I'm going to look for some websites right now with some course descriptions so that we can get those in the chat for everybody, so that you can kind of take a look. And again, if you lose that after this, reach out to us, because if you've got these emails and you showed up today, you're in our system, and we can absolutely provide all this information. So, but I'm going to let somebody else jump in while I start doing some searching here for you.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
Just one of our goals in our class is to develop leaders, and actually leaders of leaders. And that's a stated goal that we have. And when we worked with the funder, or the original funder, he was giving $150,000 for us to give away in grant monies. And he said, why should I do that? Why should I donate that kind of money? That's a lot of money. And we emphasized that we need leadership in this world. And so that was where our course was tailored towards, was to actually help meet those needs that are out there in the community in the areas of leadership. And that has been a real focus. The grant is just the methodology for us to work on building leadership.
And then just to kind of echo those. Oh, sorry, Tatiana, go ahead.
No, I was going to say thank you. That's really helpful. Yeah, go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah, just to echo Tony and Ron's points. There are tremendous opportunities when you see people coming in from all different sectors, right? From the private, nonprofit, and public. That in and of itself, kind of the strength of the cohort, builds quite a robustness within it. And that kind of innate networking, you're able to start finding individuals that kind of share those similar passions. So at times, if maybe that particular course, say, I don't know, accounting, doesn't have too much of a tilt to that exact work that you're finding, the individuals that may be in it, you'd be surprised to see kind of their vast backgrounds and experiences, and through that networking, through that commingling, what opportunities are brought up. And that's one thing that I think can't be overstated, because the content and the curriculum the professors cover an amazing amount, and it's just, I mean, top notch. But also once you're there and kind of that day to day and those opportunities that arise very, very naturally, in those areas that you might be interested in or already have experience in, I think that is also a huge component of it. That is a little bit of an intangible and kind of hard to get across via Zoom session or just a simple webinar, right? And that's often why, if you're curious a little bit more about that, and to anyone else on the call, we always encourage individuals to let us know if they have an interest in sitting in on a class or multiple classes, to kind of trying to understand that dynamic and see it's like, okay, so this is more of what it's like, versus just hearing it from us. When you're able to really experience it yourself, you're able to kind of make that determination a little bit better.
The format of our class allows for people to sit in. It would be something that you could benefit just by sitting in. You would not be in the way. You would be there and feel the ambiance of the class, and feel like you could also enter in yourself. In fact, you'd be encouraged to enter in as well. It's a good way to get experience.
And then Tatiana, I've been putting, I hope you're seeing some of the links that are going in the, so I'm putting course descriptions for both programs, as well as curriculum. So I just got the curriculum in there for MBAP, so you can kind of take a look, and we can send you more detailed information as well, just kind of sending some broad general stuff for everyone. And I'll get the ECCC one, but go ahead. These are great questions. So if you've got more, fire away. I'll get the ECC one up right now. And again, I can share this with everyone. We have just a lot of information that we can provide. And like Alex said, and this goes for everyone, I know not everyone may be able to come and sit in on a class, but the other alternative is we can also put you in front of a professor. We can set up Zoom calls, set up phone calls, set up email communication. If you'd like to talk to a student in the program, there's plenty of current students that would love to talk to prospective students to give their take. And that's across programs, whether it's the professionals or the full-time program. Other questions that folks have? Jimmy, did you have a question?
I do. First of all, I'm from Memphis and I work for Nike currently. So when I received the email, I got pretty excited, but it seems like the bulk of the classes are in person, huh? Right?
Yeah. And you know what? What's interesting is we've just met with a lot of Nike employees, Jimmy, and you hit the nail on the head. Once COVID hit, right, it was like, especially Nike was one of those organizations where people kind of dispersed, and they haven't quite come back to in person. So Nike's got employees all over. And unfortunately, yeah, our professionals program and our early career program, they're both in-person programs.
All right.
But who knows, Jimmy, maybe you can talk to Nike and coming down and taking classes here for a semester, and then heading home after that and keep doing that for a few semesters.
Right. I did all my work. You guys number 74 in the nation.
Yep.
For the MBA program.
Yep. You betcha. It's a tremendous program, and part of that success really is the in-person model, because you get to work with other professionals, and we actually have Nike employees in that MBAP program right now, and what I would consider future Nike employees in the full-time program, because a lot of them will get internships there as well. So other questions though anyone has?
Accounting and finance courses or requirements, working in a federal and state agency, I do a lot of budgeting and financial work. But I'm wondering, are those courses meant to turn you into accountant? I'm assuming not. It's to just make sure you're equipped with those tools and those toolboxes to help with your overall management leadership experience.
Tatiana, that's right. That second part of what you said, it's to give you more of that kind of managerial 360. So it is definitely not designed to make you an accountant, although, you know, some people will come in and that ends up being their passion. They'll take an accounting class and go, I really want to do this. There's ways to get you to where you want to go, but the real premise of taking those kind of courses is, like I had mentioned earlier, understanding the language of business and how do you make important decisions, you know, with that information from accounting, with that information from the finance team, that you're going to have to really look at and understand the language so that you can make informed decisions. And that's really what it's about, not to make you the accountant, but to understand and have a broader sense of, you know, how do I make these big decisions based off of that information? And that would be the same in a lot of your courses, like data analytics is another course you're going to have to take in both programs. The design is not so that you're going to be the senior data analyst, although some people want to go that route after they're getting their MBA, but it's really designed so that you can understand, well, what are you doing, you know, with your data analyst with this information? Did they miss something? How do I make a decision? What else needs to be included? That's really more of the goal. And again, Ron or anybody can speak to any of this.
One of the things in the PICI class, the PICI class, is that we really emphasized understanding and learning about the differences in the financials between a for-profit and a nonprofit, how they're different, how you read them differently, and how you can use them. And so taking the materials that you've already learned in the financial class and actually putting it to real life practice is where we emphasize.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question? Oh, go ahead,
yeah.
Tatiana.
And I'm just looking, it looks like you've got quite a few around just kind of project management and just, I'm assuming what the latest best practices are and resources and tools for good project management.
Yep, absolutely. And Ron can attest to this. Our faculty, whether it's our full-time faculty, assistant faculty, they're not only, you know, passionate about teaching, but they're doing research. They're working as consultants. They're doing other things. So they're up to date. And that's, you know, the difference I would say between us and like a research one institution. You know, you look at some of these bigger schools that, you know, the faculty are really they're there for the research part of it, but our faculty their passion is more of teaching you the latest and greatest of what's going on. And that's what they're focusing on, as well as maybe having their own practice doing something or consulting work, so that they can share that knowledge. And the MBA program, in my opinion, is the most versatile master's degree you can get, because it's going to stay up with the times. And as things change, the whole data analytics would be an example of that. You know, in the last 10 years, you know, now everybody wants to take some sort of data class. And if you look at people that were taking MBAs prior to that, data wasn't the big thing, right? It was still kind of your accounting, your finance, those kind of courses. Well, as the market changes and things change in business, the MBA programs are going to be the one that are going to kind of adapt and pivot quickly to stay up to date with that stuff, so that they can share that knowledge with you. And again, our faculty, our professors, that's their passion, is to get you guys that information so that you can carry that on and be successful managers. And again, I'll let Ron or anybody else chime in.
One of the things that ours is a second year elective. It's done the second year of the MBA program. And so I work hard to work with the students for what's next and how can I help them find their next place to be or work, to make sure that when they leave at graduation, they have a place to go, or they know where they're going. And I do a lot of letters of recommendation and connections and introductions and things like that. And having a small class, I'm able to do that. I mean, if I had 150, that would be tough. But having a smaller class sizes at Willamette, we're able to step in and help in a different kind of way.
These are all fantastic questions. So yeah, keep them coming. You guys, we don't want to kick anybody out. And this is great because, again, we're recording this, so a lot of people will get to hear this, and these are fantastic questions. So if anybody else, and Tatiana, anyone has any more, we would love for you to go ahead while you have us all here.
Is there anyone else who has one? And otherwise, I'll just ask one last one. I just didn't want to take up other space if folks have more.
No, go ahead, Tatiana, you go ask, and then we'll, yeah.
So regarding the GRE requirement, it sounds like if you already have a master's degree from 25 years ago, and it sounds like that it's worth asking for an exemption, and just you'll look at kind of the total experience and previous education, and then make that recommendation on a case-by-case basis, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And if you're 3 to 5, typically 5 years and out, you have all that experience, we're absolutely going to waive that requirement.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
That
I
will
would
help.
say,
That will make it easier.
and you know, I'll be honest, I was the same way. I went back to school after 20 odd years, right? And taking a standardized test and all that. And it's you know, that was probably the most nerve-wracking thing as I was looking at MBA programs and where to go and what to do. And so we get that part of it. And your experience in the professionals program, we're looking at that. That's going to weigh heavily on all the decisions we make. Whereas in the full-time program, the early career program, it's not the experience part that we're weighing more heavily on. So that's where we're going to really utilize the exam. But the professionals program, it'll be more of your experience and your background and your interview and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks
Great
for
question,
answering all those questions, and I really appreciate the information.
Yeah, you bet you. Thank you for showing up and coming and asking great questions. So I'm going to show our next slide to just tell everybody thank you. Again, we really appreciate everybody taking their time this evening. We hope you found this information informative. We've got one more this year of our webinars. We're going to try to do 3 of these per semester. We're on the semester system here. And there's other happenings that are going on at the university. We are going to be having a happy hour. So you're an MBA for professional and you're in the Portland area, there will be a happy hour that we're going to be doing here over the next month or so. We're going to get that information out. Salem area as well. And the full-time program, there's always things going on. So we want to continue to send out that information. You've signed up for this. You're on our email list. We'll keep sending everybody valuable info. If at any point you would like to apply, talk to us individually. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I think recruiters, why don't we, for all the people that are on the call, go ahead and add your email and phone numbers in the chat for everyone. And so everyone can go ahead and take these and add your name. And then again, we will follow up. I'm going to put, there's my name and email and cell number. I'll put my working cell number. There's mine, and I'll have Marley and Alex do the same. So feel free at any time to contact us. Now is a great time for both programs. I'll plug both for the application. Typically in the full-time program, we see a lot of panicking by seniors across the country in undergrad programs that panic and apply late. There's a lot of scholarship money for all schools at the beginning when it's early. Now is a fantastic time to apply, whether you're doing the professionals program or you're doing the early career. For those of you that weren't at our first webinar, we went through a lot of the application process, procedures, timing, that sort of thing. If you weren't able to make it and you would like us to send you that, happy to do that. Just go ahead and send us a request after this. We'll get that webinar to you so you can watch the recording. But what I'll tell you is there's a lot of scholarship money right now. For those of you looking at the MBA for Professional program, we have a fall and spring start date. So our next start date is actually coming up mid-January. And so if anybody wants to kind of get a fast track for the Professionals program, that's your opportunity. We do not offer the spring start date in the full-time program. So students have to wait until the fall. So that for you professionals, that's a chance to kind of jump on it. We have the fall start date for professionals as well. But if you're chomping at the bit, this is a great time to apply for both programs. And just so everyone knows, the application process is free. It does not cost anyone on either program anything. So this is merely an opportunity for you to see, open a door for yourself, see if you get admitted, see what kind of scholarship money you get, and then you choose if you'd like to walk through that door, and we're here to help you along the way. So keep us in mind as you're looking to further your education, to build your professional skills. Willamette University MBA does it better than most, if not the best. We want to make that known to everybody, and we're here for you guys. And again, we appreciate you being here. So Ron or Alex or Marley, if you have anything else to say before we close this out.
No, just thank you so much to everyone for being here. We really appreciate it. Tatiana, fantastic questions. Jimmy as well. Like, just thank you so much for participating. We really, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.